It's time for the movie rating. Tonight's victim is actor Luke Schuck, that plays in many films such as Friday the 13th Vengeance, such as Lane 9, such as Z Nation, such as Beloved Beast, and countless others. Hello.
Hey man, how you doing?
It's been a crazy year, but it's been a good one. How is everything out? You been safe? Everything good on your end?
Oh yeah, everything's great, man. It's been a great 2019 so far.
Tell us about the latest projects. Let's tell us a little bit. What are you allowed to talk about on Lane 9? That sounds interesting. Isn't this a sci-fi or paranormal?
It's a paranormal horror, and I'm really Lane 9. It's something else. It's written, directed by Jessica and Richard Valentine, who are dear friends of mine and a great writing, directing duo, which is rare to see in this industry. A couple that writes and directs a film together, and they do it beautifully. And for any actor to be able to have two directors on set is a blessing. It's a horror, it's supernatural, and it's a period piece. So it takes place on Halloween night in 1979 at a bowling alley, and this transient evil actually takes over one of the lanes. And so something happens on Halloween night where this guy comes in here and kind of loses his mind a bit, and after all that, takes place after all this weird happening has occurred, and there's two employees left. One of them is my character named Russell, and the other one named Beth. She's kind of skeptical, and she thinks something's going on with this lane, and it's one of those things where she's trying to tell me, hey, something might be up with this lane, but I don't really buy into it and stuff. So it's a really fun movie, and the way they shot it is it's done with lighting, it's done with a lot of cool things just to show this force that is kind of taken over this bowling alley. They really put a lot of effort into making it really look, you feel like you're in the 70s with the costumes, with everything, they made my hair look like I was one of the Bee Gees, man. I had this dope 70s hair, and they did everything they could to make it just feel like it's the 70s, and I think that's one reason that makes this film so much fun, is because you feel like you are going back in time and kind of being part of this different type of film. You don't expect that. When they pitched the idea to me, and I was like, that's such an interesting idea. A lane of a bowling alley is the thing that is the antagonist, and the way they do it is incredible with the music and the lighting, and they're just amazing directors and writers, and just I'm so pumped to be part of this short film, which is a proof of concept for a feature they are writing with the same title. So hopefully that we can, it does good, and we can kind of go and create the actual feature later on.
Oh, very nice. Has this been shopped around so far in terms of festivals? Is it still in progress, or how many months, or has it been taking this a year for you?
We filmed it a few months ago. We actually did it in one night. This film, I'm amazed. We did it in one night because we went to the bowling alley when it was closed and had only enough time up until they opened, and I'm amazed that we did what we did, because this film, the way when you see it, you will be blown back by the fact that this film was done in 13, 14 hours. But it's still in post. They actually have a GoFundMe. If anyone wants to go to GoFundMe and put in Lane 9, they're trying to raise some money for post stuff. So hopefully here in a few months they're going to start submitting it to festivals and stuff and start shopping it around and stuff. And that is one thing about what I've realized. Washington's film scene at the horror scene at the moment in Washington, it's really just coming into its own with a lot of unique artists and writers.
That's very awesome. So tell us a little bit about Friday the 13th Vengeance, about your part, what you are allowed to say in this film. I know it's just about to wrap up and stuff. It's already becoming a big popular hit before it even gets finished.
Vengeance is something else, man. I cannot express how lucky I feel to be part of this. It is the big tagline, they say it's more than a fan film, and it is truly that. It is more than a fan film, and it's incredible. I play a guy named Robert Thompson, and I am a conspiracy theorist and a writer who's actually writing a book about everything that has happened at Forest Green. And then Angelica Jarvis, who's played by Kelly Tappan, a phenomenal actress. When Tommy Jarvis goes missing, I'm one of her closest friends because I grew up with the Jarvis family, and I'm really good friends with them. So she contacts me, and I'm the first person that she calls. And then I come over, and then we start talking about that, Tommy's missing and stuff. And then I know people because I've interviewed everyone in this town about the occurrence of Jason because I'm obsessed with Jason.
Do we have an expectancy when this might be actually released to public?
Midsummer. what I've heard, hopefully midsummer, maybe later in the summer, but I know summer, and there's so many people attached to this. It was one thing for me as an actor to come in on this, and it just helped me up my game, because just being alongside greats like Steve Dash and CJ Graham, it's one of those things where it's just like, I didn't want to be the weak link. I had to really just motivate me to do everything I could to make a character that stuck out in a movie with full of amazing characters.
Do you think horror is really the best choice to get the kind of drama out of an actor?
Call it elevated horror and stuff. Acting has been more prominent, but for a long time, I feel like acting kind of took the back burner on a lot of horror films. It wasn't like the main objective with a lot of horror films, but the fact that Jeremy not only wrote a Friday the 13th film that encompasses everything the fans love about the franchise, but he's added characters that have so much depth and arc. Character in Jason Brooks kills it. I mean, I honestly believe he will be considered one of the best Jasons after this comes out, because he's amazing.
You look at all these other franchise films, you look at especially the New Age ones. I call them New Age horror films. Then when it comes to all these different new elements that they're adding to it, or cheap thrills, but with a pretty bow wrapped around it these days.
Yeah, no, and that's it. It's easy to kind of get lost in special effects or fluff or anything like that, and even lose sight of story and character development, and just have it be flashy or just have just a lot of blood and gore stuff jumping out at you. But really to be able to give the fans everything they want, and then add characters that you just don't. You're not just waiting for them to die. You see a lot of horror films, and you're just like, oh, I'm glad they died. Thank you. You're just waiting for them to be cannon fodder. And with this, it's like with Vengeance, they've made characters where the audience are going to be truly relate to them. And that's one reason why with Robert, my character, Jeremy and I talked about character a lot, and one thing that we talked about being a really cool idea is the fact that he's almost a fan himself. Like, he grew up with these stories, and so to have a character that almost sees Jason and Tommy Jarvis in the way that fans see Jason and Tommy. Like, he grew up with these stories, and he's obsessed with them, and he loves them, and he's writing a book about them, and it's like, what better in a fan film than to have a character where the fans could be like, that's who I would be. That's me. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm really proud to be able to add what I can to it. You could really just have a fan film, and it's just kills, and that's the thing. It's blood, it's gore, it's kills, and it's one of those things where it's like, that will appease quite a few people, and people will be happy with just having that, but add more depth and actually add a lot of substance to it on top of giving that darker, gorier backbone. It's a tricky thing to do, but I think Jeremy and the team have done it beautifully.
Underacting and there's overacting, but do you think it's more difficult to stay in the middle without actually losing control of the character?
Sometimes. I mean, yeah, and that is the trickiest thing, because with film acting, you could raise your eyebrow a little too high and you're overacting. You know what I mean? Or, the underacting and overacting are so easy to do when you're film acting that it's a tough thing. And really, for me, it's a case-by-case situation with each character and the nuance, everything from their posture to their tone to their presence, and it's really one of those things where, it all depends,
Yeah, and presentation is always, every actor should think that's the most important key. I mean, either presenting the character and acting the character and showing what the viewer, the audience, is as far as the whole storytelling is. I mean, you got a big responsibility, and the actors usually just do it straight through, and they're actors that really put the TLC into this.
Yeah, no, totally, and that's easy to do, and a lot of people don't give the audience enough credit. A lot of people don't go into it realizing that the audience is way smarter than a lot of people think they are when it comes to acting and what it means to observe truly authentic acting. So sometimes actors will go in there and memorize the lines, emote the best way they feel like they know how or been trained to, and it doesn't come across authentic. It comes across like they're being emotional, but not human. And it's one of those things where, and the audience knows. They might not be trained actors, they might not, have studied acting, but they subconsciously know what's genuinely human or not, because we're all human and we interact with each other all the time. And we're just with acting, you're just being human, and a lot of times in a crazy situation or an unrealistic situation. But it's just really coming down to that, making sure you bring a character and make it as human as possible in the given situation that the character is in.
Yeah, and then some actors will actually complain about like certain methods, like, oh, well, that's not really the best way or something. But I mean, everyone has their own way, their own thing. But if it sells for that actor, I mean, that's great. That's great for you. But I mean, if you're dogging on other methods, well, maybe, like I said, it's not for everybody. Once that's in front of audience, they're going to look at every single movement, every single gesture, every single facial expression, everything. Like, you walk into a room, I mean, you better be doing something in that room aside from just talking face to, straight through face to face to that character.
Oh yeah, no, totally, and that's the thing, because like, especially on the big screen, everything, it's right in front of you. It's right there, and so it's like, and like you go back to different methods, different styles. Every actor has to do what they see fit, and it's all subjective. Like, it's all subjective when it comes to the actor, and they have to do everything they can do to help them get to that place, whatever it is. Even when you don't have lines, that if you're on screen, if you're not doing anything, then it's boring and it's dead. And so it's like, the moments where you have nothing to say, but you still have to do something or convey emotion without saying a word or without, doing a lot is truly, I think some of the funnest acting is reacting.
The kind of amount of reality, how much amount of reality should you actually put into the character as opposed to fantasy?
Oh, yeah, good question, man. I think really that is depending on the character, because a lot of characters, some characters you can put a lot of self-filter in. Like, if there's, like Robert, the character in Vengeance, I feel like I put a lot of myself into this character and a lot of my ideals and a lot of who I am into this character, which was easy to do. But then there's some characters where they're so kind of out there and so just separated from anything you are, it gives you a chance to even go a little different with it. Like, you can, there is no self-filter because it's like you don't really relate to the character, but at the same time, that's even just as fun because you can really then truly create something that is completely separate from you.
Yeah, and I think that's basically the wow factor, in my opinion, right there, because once you do that, I mean, then you spark an interest to the audience when they're like, oh, huh, okay. I mean, it doesn't matter what situation is, because when you do that, it's a pinpoint. That's where you start, right there, because it's almost like it's almost like a little invisible meter, man. Because once you generate interest from the audience, they're like, oh, but you don't want to raise it too high, you don't want to make it too low. Otherwise, it's just going to be boring. It's going to be uninteresting, and then they're just going to move on from the scene, or they might even get up from the actual chair and just leave.
Talking about keeping it interesting stuff, and it's like there has to be, like, the audience always wants you want to make them always wonder, what are they thinking? Even if you give them everything the character has, you always hold a little bit back. Like Brando always said, if you feel like giving 100%, give 80%, because you always have to leave that mystique, some kind of mystery behind the character's eyes, behind their motives, or behind who they are, so the audience wants to know more. They're like intrigued by the character and just like feel like, oh, I want to know more about this character. He's mysterious somehow. And I feel like, and there's so many things that actors can do to just make a performance stand out more and just be more engaging for the audience.
And we have a submitted question. Are you ready for this?
Sure, yeah.
All right, this one is from Alexi Angelino, and she says, what is your favorite role that you have played to date, and why?
I think Russell in Lane 9, it was a really fun character to play. Because he's an employee at this bowling alley, and he thinks he's too cool for school, but he should probably quit years ago, but he didn't, and so he's a huge dork, but he doesn't think he is, and he's just a really great character. And then Robert Thompson, I mean, this character in Vengeance has really grown on me, and I'm really, I'm sad to kind of, it's almost done with this character, because I put a lot into it, and me and him have gotten close, I guess you could say, and, it's going to be sad to see him go.
Go ahead and plug in anything that you want to plug in, any websites, anything that has been released that you want to promote, or anything that you would like to promote in general, any dates and so forth.
Yeah, so I have, like I mentioned, Lane 9 is doing a GoFundMe, so, anyone wants to help out with the post-production of Lane 9. Honeymoon, which I am filming a couple days after I wrap Vengeance, is doing a Seed and Spark campaign, and that's another horror film that I'm super psyched about. You go to Seed and Spark and type in Honeymoon. And then also, if anyone's going to Crypticon, May 3rd at 7 p.m., there will be a Friday the 13th Vengeance panel, which will have, like anyone that is for this movie needs to check that out. Unfortunately, I will not be there because I will be filming my next project, but there will be tons of cast and crew from this amazing film that I think it's going to be great for anyone that is going to Crypticon. So definitely check that out on May 3rd at 7 p.m. And then, if anyone wants to ever look at any of my reel or see any of my shorts, they can go to LukeSchuck.com. And I just want to give a shout-out to my manager, Alexi Angelino, who is just a brilliant woman and has helped me a lot. And, yeah.
And there you have it, everybody. That is actor Luke Schuck.